Have you ever wondered how your community discovers books? Here's a little hint or spoiler alert. It's not just on your shelves. We are going to explore the discovery habits for books in Canada, the US, and Australia, New Zealand. And we're going to talk about some smart marketing that you can do to promote your collection in this episode of the Library Marketing Show. Hi, everyone. I'm Angela Hursh from the blog superlibrarymarketing.com. Head on over there and scroll to the bottom corner in the left. You'll be able to input your email address and you'll get a notification every time I post. We are going to begin today's episode with kudos, where we give a shout out to somebody doing something interesting, fun, unique, or just notable in library marketing. And our kudos today is going to the Tompkins County Public Library in Ithaca, New York. They recently had an event where they had about 20 people who took turns reading the U.S. Constitution just outside the library. This might not sound like a big deal, but I think it is. We've talked on here before about positioning your library as the source for fact checking, for information about democracy, for the importance of institutions like the library. This ties into that in a very smart way. The library took pains to do this event in a nonpartisan way. They had a whole group of people who were taking turns reading, including the Tompkins County historian and the Greater Ithaca Activity Center, folks, representatives from there. So it doesn't look partisan. It's something that everybody can get around. And I think it's important for libraries to remind people of the importance of the Constitution because, of course, it also supports our right to read. So great job, Tompkins County Public Library. All right, so let's get into today's topic, which is leisure reading and how your library can market to leisure readers. It's summer for most of us, although in Australia and New Zealand, it's winter time. So it's a time on both sides of the world where people spend time reading. This episode was prompted by a new study that came out. It's the Canadian Leisure and Readers Reading Study 2024. I will put a link to that down below. But looking through that data, I was wondering how the US and Australia and New Zealand compare to Canada. Most of my viewers come from those three areas, so let's get into it. I was particularly interested in how people in those countries discover books. So according to that new study in Canada, word of mouth is the most popular way for people to discover books, followed by wandering around a bookstore. And then methods from public libraries. That includes talking to staff, book displays, and email newsletters that libraries send. So if you work in a library in Canada, I have 3 marketing tips for you. First is to start some kind of a book display right near the entrance of your library. Staff picks is a really popular one. I find that patrons are often curious about what staff is reading, and so you can ask your staff and put together a book display. The second marketing tip is to send newsletters with titles in them. I see a lot of newsletters that have lots of programs and events, which is awesome. Make sure that you include collection items, and I would put them up towards the top of your newsletter. And then my third tip is to think about partnering with your local bookstores to cross promote. So you can ask the local bookstore to come in and help sponsor an author event. They can sell their books there. And then you can host the event, which helps drive up traffic to your library. And you can offer read-alikes for the book, whoever the author is, for like books like theirs. All right, let's move on to the United States. In the US, where do people find books? 55% of people in the United States say they get their book recommendations from friends or family. Libraries are second, they get 28%, and social media is third. So if you're a librarian in the United States, here are my 3 collection promotion tips for you. First of all, I would say hosting some bring a friend events like book swaps or reading nights would be really great. You're kind of combining that friends and family recommendation aspect with your library as a place where people can come to find the books. And what we're trying to do is get people to realize that libraries are the best place to find their next read. If your library has the capability to do reviews of books on its website, some libraries do, I would start promoting that. I never see libraries talk about that. And I know many library websites, when you get in the catalog, you can, as a patron, review books. So let's talk about that more. And then in the US, it makes a whole lot of sense to do collection promotion on TikTok and Instagram. Those are places where people of all ages, especially young people, get their book recommendations. We want them to trust your library as the best place to get suggested reads. Okay, let's get into what the situation is in Australia and New Zealand. Pretty similar to Canada and the US. The top 3 ways people discover books are social media, libraries, and word of mouth. So if you're a librarian in that part of the world, my 3 marketing tips are: 1, to have some book clubs and do some really strategic promotion around book clubs. In person, virtual, maybe they're genre specific. You're looking for niche audiences that you can target with messages about those book clubs and get people involved. The second tip is to reach out to some potential social media influencers. You can do some research on Instagram and TikTok to find folks who are giving book recommendations in your area and ask them to do some reviews or crossover material promotion on your library's Instagram and TikTok accounts. You might also think about having patrons do reviews on Instagram and TikTok for you. You can record it with them. You can have them come to the library. You can even turn this into an event. Have people come to the library and spend 5 minutes on camera reviewing a book, which you then get permission to post on your social media channels. If you are doing collection promotion, and if you've done any of those tips and if they've worked for you, or what do you do to make sure people in your community know your library is the best place to find a book? I'm really curious. I'm sure my viewers are. So let's get a conversation started down in the comments. And that's it for today's episode of the Library Marketing Show. But my channel is full of other tips for library marketing. You can head there to this next video. I'll meet you there.